Welcome back to Are You a Caleb Leader podcast. In our last episode, we explored how Caleb had a different spirit, a spirit of faith when others were overwhelmed by fear. And today we look at another defining quality of Caleb's leadership, the courage to stand alone for what is right. Our key scripture is Numbers 13:30, where it says, "Then Caleb quieted the people before Moses and said, 'We should go up and take possession of the land, for we can certainly do it.'" For a moment, when fear was spreading rapidly, Caleb did something that every great leader must eventually do. He stood against the crowd. And today we'll explore why standing alone is sometimes the greatest test of leadership. The people of Israel were standing at the edge of the promised land, and God had delivered them from Egypt, guided them through the wilderness, and brought them to the place he had promised to give them. To prepare for the next step, Moses sent 12 leaders, one from each tribe, to explore the land of Canaan, and for 40 days they surveyed the land. When they returned, they confirmed that the land was indeed rich and fertile. It flowed with milk and honey, just as God had said. But they also reported something troubling. The cities were fortified, the people were strong, and there were giants in the land. And at that moment, the leadership of the nation split. 10 of the spies focused on the danger. They said, "We can't attack those people. They are stronger than we are." And they described themselves as grasshoppers compared to the giants. Fear spread quickly through the camp. What began as a report soon became panic. People started imagining defeat before the battle had even begun. But in the middle of the rising fear, Caleb stepped forward. The Bible tells us he quieted the people. Imagine the courage that took. Thousands of voices were murmuring in fear. 10 respected leaders had already spoken. The atmosphere was heavy and with doubt. Yet Caleb stood up and declared, "We should go up and take possession of the land, for we can certainly do it." In that moment, Caleb stood almost completely alone. One of the greatest misconceptions about leadership is that leaders are always supported by the majority. But the truth is, some of the most important leadership moments happen when the majority is wrong. Caleb teaches us that leadership is not about repeating what the crowd believes. Leadership is about speaking truth even when it's unpopular. The other spies looked at the giants and concluded defeat. Caleb looked at some giants and remembered the promise of God. And this is an important lesson. Leadership is not determined by what we see. It's determined by how we interrupt what we see. 10 leaders interpreted the situation through fear. Caleb interpreted it through faith. And because of that, he was willing to stand apart from the majority. History often shows us that the majority is not always right. And many of the world's greatest breakthroughs happen because someone had the courage to stand against the prevailing opinion. In Caleb's case, the majority saw impossibility, but Caleb saw opportunity. The real leadership requires the courage to hold on to the truth even when the crowd lets go of it. So standing alone sounds noble, and it is, but it is also very difficult, because when you stand against the majority, criticism often follows. In fact, if you continue reading the story, the people didn't celebrate Caleb's courage. They resisted it. They rejected his faith, and eventually they even talked about returning to Egypt. Leadership can be lonely when you refuse to compromise the truth. And people may misunderstand you. Some may question your motives. Others may resist the direction you believe is right. But Caleb teaches us something powerful. Conviction must be stronger than the need for approval. If Caleb had waited for popular support, he never would have spoken. If he had waited until everyone agreed the moment would have passed. But Caleb's leadership was not built on popularity, it was built on the faith in God's promise. And that's the leadership often requires the courage. Here is today's leadership lesson. A Caleb leader stands firm when the crowd disagrees. And a Caleb leader understands that truth does not change because of public opinion. When fear spreads, they speak faith. When doubt rises, they remind people of God's promises, and when others step back, they step forward. Standing alone is not easy, but leadership is not about choosing the easiest path. It's about choosing the right one. So as we close today's podcast, consider this question. Are you willing to stand alone for truth? When pressure rises, when opinions clash, and when the crowd moves in a different direction, will you follow the majority, or will you stand firm in what you know is right? The spirit of Caleb's leadership is not defined by how many people agree. It is defined by the courage to stand when conviction demands it. In our next podcast, we'll explore another powerful leadership trait from Caleb's life, seeing vision bigger than fear. Because Caleb didn't just stand against the crowd, he saw a future that fear could not see. So until next time, keep asking yourself, are you a Caleb leader?